Hey guys, AshFiMon here. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you in advance for liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. So let's look at the history of the Jamaican passport through the years as an independent nation. So for a little bit of historical context, according to Jamaica's PICA, which stands for Passport Immigration Citizenship Agency, Jamaica issued its first passport between 1962 and 1963. Of course, 1962, because that is when we got our independence from Britain on August 6th of that year. And that first passport was issued to Jamaica's first and sitting prime minister at the time, and that was Sir Alexander Bustamante. And in my brief research, he was actually born William Alexander Clark and then later changed his name to Bustamante, his last name at that. And he's also related to Norman Manley. And if you know Jamaica's or Kingston Airport specifically, it's also named after Norman Manley. So Bustamante founded the JLP, Jamaica Labor Right Party, and his relative Norman Manley founded PNP, People's National Party. Norman Manley is also the father of Michael Manley, and Michael Manley later became Jamaica's fourth prime minister. And then in 1963, the first passport that was issued outside of Jamaica was issued to Nurse Avis Thompson, and that was issued by the Jamaica High Commissions in London. So now that we got a little bit of historical context, let's look at the physical aspects of the passport. So these passports are in my arsenal. There are a combination of some that was gifted to me, and I know that sounds weird, but I'll explain. Some that I borrowed for the sake of the video, and then my own. So first runner up is my maternal grandmother's blue passport, and that's not to be mistaken for like the blue passport that I think a lot of Jamaicans are more familiar with. This is her April 1969 issued passport that was given to her. So this passport was only valid for 5 years. It later expired in 1974. It's blue, it's thin, it's hardbound. Information, of course, was handwritten in cursive. Her photo was in black and white. It was glued down to the page. The visa page has Jamaica written in small white print horizontally across the page. And this is her first passport. So in 2017, when she passed, my aunt, and if you're familiar with my story or past content, I mentioned an aunt who had told me about Jamaican citizenship. So that's the same person. So she had asked myself and my cousins, like, hey, do you want to have, one of your grandmother's passports? And I'm like, absolutely, right? Because I love family history and I love, documents and keep it up with those things. So I chose this one, her first one, reason being not just because it was like her first passport, but I was already familiar with the other ones that she had, and I wasn't really familiar with this one. So I chose this one to keep, and I'm so glad that I have it. Next runner up is the blue passport that a lot of Jamaicans are familiar with, and it is this one. This is my parents' passport, my mom and dad's, and that's why I have two. And this was issued to them in August 1982. And so they're issued at the same time. They were married at the time, still are. And this was valid for 10 years. So at this point, this is the second generation, and I'm going to kind of refer to these based on like generation levels. So the first generation, second generation. Second generation, you still see similar sizing, still blue, but a deeper blue. It's a bit thicker. It's no longer hardbound. It's soft. But the passport is no longer valid for 5 years like it was in the first generation. It is now 10 years. The passport number is stitched or engraved on the front top. It's also engraved on the inside. You can feel the ridging on the back page of the numbers. And of course, information was still handwritten in cursive. Picture is still black and white. Probably glued down, but you still see an extra layer of protection because it looks like it's laminated. I don't want to say it's taped over it, but I think it's laminated just for extra protection over the picture. And inside the visa page, the design is it's a bit different. So it still has Jamaica written across horizontally, but bigger font. But you now have the coat of arms on the center page. So This is the second generation passport. Up next is the third generation passport, and this is my paternal grandmother's passport, and this is the red book that a lot of you guys call it. So this burgundy passport, I feel like, is when Jamaica has issued or has transitioned into, I should say, becoming more of a modern passport compared to the first two generations. So some clear differences that we can see is that it reduced in size compared to the previous generation. And we're no longer in blue, we're now red. So we reduced the size and we changed the colors. And FYI, none of these passports I'm showing you are, these are not diplomatic or like official passports. These are just regular adult passports like me and you. So the data page on this one is now typed. It's no longer handwritten in. The photo is in color, and obviously the design of the data page is different from the first two generations. The passport number is no longer stitched or engraved on the front cover, but it is on the inside of the visa page. The visa page design has changed. You still see Jamaica in very light font, but more pronounced is the coat of arms, and it's also Jamaica's national fruit, the ackee, and Jamaica's national bird, the Dr. bird, on the inside. Again, still valid for 10 years. This was issued to her in May 2002, later expired in May 2012, and it's a similar storyline. My grandmother passed in 2006, and my eldest aunt on my dad's side, she gave me her passport, and it was still valid at the time. And I'm so grateful, of course, once again, that I have this one. So this was actually the first one that I had in my arsenal compared to my maternal grandmother's own, because she died in 2006. This one died in 2017. And I wish I was kind of like the way I am now back then, because I would have loved to have saw her birth certificate, her marriage certificate. I would have loved to have my grandfather, her husband's passport. No one knows where that is now, because I just really like those things. I look at it as like a family heirloom. So that is the Red Book passport. Fourth generation is my passport, and if you currently have a passport, you guys are more familiar with this one. This is my passport. This was issued to me in 2017 after I previously applied for Jamaica citizenship by descent, and in 2017. And of course, valid for 10 years, so I still have a few more years on it. Information on the data page, still typed. Font size has reduced a bit. The photo still in color, but instead of one photo, now there's two. The passport number still engraved on the inside. The visa page is still similar, or still like the same in the Red Book. But there's a very noticeable difference. We went back to blue. It's no longer red, but we went back to a deeper blue, like a navy. And on top of that this is now a CARICOM passport. You see CC, CARICOM stands for Caribbean Community. And you also see the CC in the bottom of the visa pages to signify that the Jamaica passport is a CARICOM passport. So those are some of the major changes from the previous one. The third generation Red Book to now my own. Last but not least is my sister's e-passport. Now, in spring 2024, Jamaica announced that it was transitioning to the e-passport, which stands for electronic passport. When you see the symbol at the bottom of passports in any country where my index finger is, that signifies that the passport is electronic. That means there's a chip on the inside. When Jamaica announced this, I remember reading comments. It always goes down in the comments, doesn't it? People were like, oh, it's the mark of the beast, and Jamaica to follow fashion, and they were saying all kind of things. And I get, skepticism, and they have an opinion, rightfully so. We all have one. However, shortly after Jamaica announced that they were transitioning to e-passport, I contacted someone at PICA. I got some frequently asked questions answered. It's been posted on my website. I'll link it down below so you guys can, check it out if you like. But One clear difference from the 4th generation, my passport, to this one is obviously that it is electronic. It's a chip inside. So though people were skeptical, generally the chip is supposed to be more secure. Many other CARICOM nations have the chip that will already issue those passports. Canada, United States, I'm sure the UK, and so many other countries throughout the world had already issued the e-passport, and it's supposed to be safer. Passport number is now engraved on the back, and it is still also engraved on the inside. Visa page design is still looking the same, but again, the CARICOM CC is on the inside. And one very clear difference, that if you see the interview that I did with the lady at PICA, you'll see that the profession, and if you know Jamaica's passport, you know throughout the previous 4 generation passports, the profession of the individual was listed in there. Because of the new e-passport, it is no longer listed inside the data page. Now, whether it's on the back end, like when they scan it or whatever, you see additional information, I don't know, but it's no longer listed on the data page. So your profession, teacher, nurse, whatever you might be, is no longer listed on there. There are still a couple other little differences, but you can check out the link to see what additional differences there might be in the event that you don't have your e-passport. I will say that you do not have to turn in or upgrade from your previous passport like mine. It is still very valid to use, but when it is expired and you get a new passport, you will be issued the e-passport. Now, if you ever have questions about applying for a passport, applying for citizenship by descent, even applying for the TRN, I did a deeper dive of content on that, of important things to look out for, required documents, and what my process was like applying for those things directly in Jamaica, and I'll link those videos down below. And if you love my lovely shirt that I have on, Daughter of the Diaspora, I designed it, I created it, and I sell it on my website, AshFiMon.com, where you can support and buy your own. So this is the gradient color. And I also have it in black and white, classic black and white. And then, of course, gentlemen, I've not forgotten about you. I have the male version, Son of the Diaspora. So I'm going to leave the necessary links in the description for you guys to check out. And I love your support. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And I do hope you found this video informative, informational. Which one of these passports do you have? Which one of them have you seen or have never seen before? As always, you can link up with me online everywhere at AshFiMon. And until next time, have an amazing day.